Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Illuminati. The man who rules the world takes on the head of the global elite in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes' Illuminati on Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. I've had a lot of viewers tell me they'd love to see a John Haynes movie or a John Haynes TV series, and I'd love to make an adaptation of the John Haynes character for film, television, or streaming, and I believe the character would lend very well to the screen because when I was writing books like The Temptation of John Haynes, The Man Who Rules the World, and books in the John Haynes series like A Conversation with Death, Dark Succubus, and The Man with Nothing to Lose, I oftentimes saw scenes in my imagination like frames of a movie. And because it was basically a movie in my mind, I believe it would translate very well to the screen in an adaptation. However, when it comes to an adaptation, I always originally thought it would work well as a live-action film, and whenever I started planning the book, I saw it as a film that could be made for under $50 million. Unfortunately, many of the actors I originally imagined in those roles are no longer available to be able to play the parts I imagined them in. Now, when I originally imagined The Temptation of John Haynes way back in 2005, I originally imagined it as a live-action film similar to the tone of Ghostbusters, and one that would be a very dark kind of film. And I originally imagined the film featuring Michael Ealy as John Haynes, featuring Keith David as Lucifer, and Sally Richardson Whitfield as Esteem. Unfortunately, over the last 15 to 16 years, everyone has sadly gotten older and won't be able to fit into those roles that I originally planned. Right now, Keith David is 67 years old, and I don't think he would want to play the character of Lucifer at that age, and Sally Richardson Whitfield has retired from acting at 56 and is now focused on directing at this point, and I wouldn't be able to get her to be the leading lady because if you wanted to get a budget, they wouldn't be able to greenlight an older actress as a leading lady in that role. And when it comes to Michael Ealy, he's 50 years old, and at this point I don't think he would be interested in playing the role of John Haynes. So with all of the actors I originally planned to be the leads no longer available, and many of the supporting players that I originally imagined, like Rene Auberjonois, no longer being with us because he passed away a couple of years ago, because Rene Auberjonois, who was also Odo on Deep Space Nine, and Clayton Endicott on Benson, and Desaad in the Superpower show, I originally imagined him in a role as a supporting character to Lucifer as Brent Morrison, and sadly he is no longer with us. And there are other actors I originally planned for roles, like I had Felicia Rashad as Carol, who is a major character in the SJS Direct universe, and all of these different actors, again, are no longer available to fit into those roles, and since they're no longer available for the story I originally wrote, the only road I would see feasible for a John Haynes character is an animated series. So the only adaptation I believe that could be done at this point with the John Haynes character is an animated series, and I believe that the John Haynes character would lend very well to an animated series, because when I originally wrote The Temptation of John Haynes, I drew a lot of inspiration from animated series that came out in the 1990s, and one of the big animated series that was an inspiration for the overall paradigm for the John Haynes character was Greg Weisman's Gargoyles. Now, Disney, when they created Gargoyles in 1994, I believe, created an animated series with a darker tone, and that darker tone of Gargoyles was the thing that really had a major influence on my whole model of storytelling, because that was the first time I ran into Sally Richardson Whitfield's acting and saw her great voiceover work with Keith David and the chemistry they had. And that's what really inspired me to create the Esteem character, and also inspired my overall model of storytelling. Now, Gargoyles had a rich, complex level of storytelling we didn't see in animated series until that point, and that whole model of storytelling showed us richer, more complex, multi-dimensional characters, and that was a major influence on my storytelling, along with another animated series which revolutionized American hand-drawn animation, and that animated series was Batman the Animated Series. Now, Batman the Animated Series basically revolutionized American animation in the early 1990s, and the storytelling in Batman the Animated Series, with its rich, complex storytelling and rich, complex characters and more dynamic acting and performances, basically felt like you were watching a real-life drama. And because you felt like you were watching a real-life drama, those episodes resonated with you, and as they resonated with you, you felt like you were watching a piece of cinema, not just some children's cartoon. And Gargoyles and Batman the Animated Series were major influences on me as a writer, along with the Warner Brothers show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I always loved that show's dark tone, and I loved the dialogue in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and that was a major influence in the way characters talked for me, along with the Quentin Tarantino film Pulp Fiction. All of those concepts were major influences on my writing of The Temptation of John Haynes, and I believe that it would make for a great animated movie, and I believe it would make for a very revolutionary kind of animated film, because one, it would be a drama featuring black characters, and two, it would be a fantasy story that would take you into the world of the dark and supernatural. I mean, this whole concept would be one that would really get people's attention, and I believe it would lend well to hand-drawn animation. I believe that if they were able to make an adaptation of John Haynes, it would lend well to either the silver screen in a series of animated movies, or a television series like Gargoyles or Batman the Animated Series. And when I look at John Haynes, I could see The Temptation of John Haynes easily being an animated movie that could go 90 minutes to 2 hours, and I could see it really having a lot of dark tones, and I could easily see the climax of The Temptation of John Haynes, where Esteem reveals herself to John Haynes in her true form. That would make for some very compelling visuals, along with scenes in the climax and the final battle between John Haynes and Lucifer. Not to mention, there are numerous sequences in The Temptation of John Haynes that would work well on screen. So I easily could see The Temptation of John Haynes making for a great animated movie and a pilot for a possible series if it was done. And I could see it being a event like a 2-hour movie or a 90-minute movie, and I could see that easily segueing into the sequel for The Temptation of John Haynes, which was The Man Who Rules the World. And I could see it easily turning into another sequel animated movie that would lend very well to the screen, and from there possibly transitioning into John Haynes, A Conversation with Death, and the material for the John Haynes series. I could see it lending very well to the screen, and I could also see a lot of great opportunities for black animators and out here, and I could also see it being an opportunity for a lot of black actors to step up their game doing voiceovers. I mean, whenever I write these characters, again, I imagine black actors in the roles. I imagine Keith David as Lucifer when I first wrote it, Sally Richardson as Esteem, and I could easily see other black actors stepping up their game, like Kimberly Elise and people like Kevin Grievu and Shamar Moore. I mean, this could open a door for black actors to be able to showcase their talents and their voiceover ability. I believe it would be a great opportunity for a lot of black actors to be able to show their range that they cannot show in mainstream films. And that's one of the things I wanted to do with the original John Haynes, with The Temptation of John Haynes for a live action version, really show you that black actors can show great range and show great skill as related to their ability. That's what I wanted to show with the John Haynes character as related to doing a adaptation, and I believe it would be a great opportunity for those black actors, and I believe it would also be another great opportunity for black animators like Chris Crazyhouse, and I believe it would also be a great opportunity for an art style. And that's one of the reasons why I love Bill Walko's art, because his art is inspired by hand-drawn animation and Saturday morning cartoons, and I believe his style would work very well for a John Haynes animated series, because again, one of the influences was Batman the Animated Series and Gargoyles, and his style really, I believe, would lend well to this series with its darker, more cerebral tone, and I believe it would work very well for the John Haynes character, and I believe it would make for some compelling storytelling. And I would be open to an adaptation in an anime style similar to what Antonio Balderi did on the John Haynes at Death's Door comic. When I imagine a John Haynes animated series, I think it would work very well on the screen in showing you that richer picture of the world of the supernatural and show you a richer picture of black life and black culture. And I believe it would open a door to show you a different picture of black people. I believe it would be possible to make this series really work, or make a series of animated movies work, because the storytelling is that strong. And again, it would open a door for a lot of black actors to really showcase their talent. Again, I've talked about people like Kevin Grievu and Kimberly Elise and Shamar Moore, and there are other great black actors who we don't get to see how great they are, like Dondra T. Whitfield, and many others like Wesley Snipes, and again, great talent out here. And a voiceover can really take your skill to the next level, because that's what happened with Sally Richardson when she was playing Elisa Maza. It really showcased how great her range was with Gargoyles, and I wrote it so that she could get a signature role that would show her range and her skill. Same thing with Keith David as Lucifer, and lots of opportunities for black performers like we had with Paul Dini and Bruce Timm's Batman the Animated Series, which showcased how great talents like Efren Zimbalist Jr. and Adrienne Barbeau and the late Richard Mall, how great their skills were. I mean, this could be an opportunity, again, to really revolutionize black entertainment in showing you black characters in a story, and really showcase black performers in a movie or a series of movies or TV material. I mean, the John Haynes character would lend well to the screen, and that's what many viewers are seeing, because they see how I write it like a movie in your mind, and I believe that would translate very well to the screen. I believe it would translate very well to viewers and give them a black character that they could relate to, and it would resonate, because that's what's happening right now whenever I promote the John Haynes character, whether it be in books like The Temptation of John Haynes, The Man Who Rules the World, or John Haynes series books like A Conversation with Death, Dark Succubus, The Man with Nothing to Lose, Taking Care of Business, and other books like the Godbreaker book and books like the upcoming John Haynes Illuminati. There's a lot of people who like these stories, and they work well in other forms of media. That's what I saw with the John Haynes At Death's Door comic, and that's what I believe would happen with a adaptation. But when it comes to adaptations, I really wouldn't want to do it with Hollywood, because Hollywood would ruin the character, because they would want to push anti-black agendas like the black man in a dress and emasculate him, or minimize John Haynes' manhood and masculinity. So if I did do material with John Haynes, it would be outside of Hollywood, and it would be something that I would want to do independent as an animated project, and that possibly would cost a bunch of money to do hand-drawn animation, which a lot of people don't like, but I see as great from anime, and believe that there's still hope with the medium, because hand-drawn animation is a great way of storytelling. And with the John Haynes character coming from my roots of comic books, I would want to see a hand-drawn animated version of the John Haynes character, not a CGI one, because CGI just feels fake and artificial. I want to see a hand-drawn animated version, because I believe that would connect with viewers of all ages and show that animation can be something for people of all ages. That's what I got when in my 20s, when I was watching Batman the Animated Series. That's what I got watching Gargoyles. That's what I got watching all of that media. And that's what I would want to share with people with an animated version of John Haynes. I would want to do an animated version of John Haynes if I ever got a chance to do an adaptation. I would want to do hand-drawn animation, because that's a medium I think would connect with readers and viewers of all ages, and animation is something that is a lot of fun to look at, and it allows you to have your imagination. I mean, that's one of the things I think kids need, is to be the ability to imagine and see a world of black people where black people are the center and focus of the story. And if I ever got that chance to make a adaptation of the John Haynes character, I would love to do it as an animated series, because hand-drawn animation brings people together. Hand-drawn animation allows people to connect with characters. Hand-drawn animation really allows people to come together and enjoy a story. And hand-drawn animation really brings a story to life in a way that no other form of medium can go out here and do. Now, if you want to get to know the John Haynes character and why he connects with so many people, you can start by picking up The Temptation of John Haynes on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Temptation of John Haynes at other online booksellers like Smashworth, the iBookstore, Google Play, and Barnes & Noble. And if you want to pick up the sequel to The Temptation of John Haynes, The Man Who Rules the World, you can find that book along with the other books with John Haynes' appearances in the ISIS series, such as Wrath of the Cyber Goddess, Bride of Dracula, Night of the Vampires, and Escape from Transylvania, and the upcoming Dark Incubus and Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. You can find those books and the books of the Esteemed series, where John Haynes is oftentimes featured. And you can also find John Haynes in his own John Haynes series. You can find all those books in paperback and Kindle format on Amazon.com and at other online booksellers like Barnes & Noble. And if you want digital books, you can find them at other online booksellers like Smashworth, the iBookstore, Google Play, and Barnes & Noble. And if you'd like to see me be able to make more books and comics with John Haynes, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box, and that helps me be able to pay artists like Bill Walker and Mike Williams to do covers. and also helps me to be able to pay artists like Antonio Baldari to be able to make John Haynes comic books and other comics in the SJS Direct universe. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Bride of Dracula, Goddess Next Door, and John Haynes team up to take on the Dark Vampire in this action-packed Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Bride of Dracula in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers today. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, E-Steam The Sands of Time. It's action and adventure in ancient Egypt in this terrific teen time travel romance. Get your copy of E-Steam The Sands of Time at your favorite online bookseller today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, 1987. Learn lessons about life and teenage love in the 1980s in this coming-of-age John Haynes story. Get your copy of John Haynes 1987 in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.